Hey everyone, today's episode is brought to you by Hot Wheels, which you might remember Billy joked about, the live show last year. Yes, he reckoned they were in talks to create a Billy and Nick dream house. Sadly, that actually hasn't happened yet.
Not yet.
Yep, but something just as cool is a chance to partner with a brand that is all about helping kids build confidence and resilience. Hot Wheels is all about giving kids the confidence to take on challenges like launching a car through a loop, crashing into the couch, rebuilding the track and giving it another go. Hot Wheels is not just fun, it's about learning through action. Try, fail, repeat, grow. That's what play should be all around, right, Billy? And that's why we're really proud to have them support the pod.
All right, I've got it. Maybe instead of a dream house, it's time for the Nick and Billy Ultimate Garage.
Mate, I'm thinking of something even better. Maybe our own PCP Hot Wheels set.
Yes, in our theme colours. And just like this sponsorship, all of those funds will go towards Guiding Growing Minds, supporting kids in the community.
Brilliant, Billy. Hey, let's make it happen. All right, go grab your Hot Wheels cars, clear some space on the floor and settle in. This episode is going to be a good one. Billy, episode 1, 2, 3 in the can. What are people going to learn this week?
Yeah, it was not as easy as ABC, but it was big, like just celebrating some beautiful stories, some powerful ones, some funny ones,
Waves
some emotional
of emotions.
ones.
Waves of emotions.
Some tight shorts, I thought.
Yeah, really good shorts.
Yeah, some good shorts, and end on just a phenomenal dad doing his best through weight that we'll never have to hold, hopefully, just guiding all of us. So, yeah.
Yep. And we also announced the fact that we are going on a national-ish tour at this stage.
Yeah,
on
two capital cities locked.
Two capital cities locked,
So
but
Melbourne, 27th of March,
yeah.
and Sydney, 22nd of May.
Yes.
We are coming. Tickets hopefully will go quickly. So
yes, they sold out very quickly last time. So join the Patreon because you'll get earlier access. There's no cost to joining the Patreon, but just join it and you'll get earlier access, and then we send it out more broadly. So yes, we hope you enjoy the episode, and we've loved this year. But yeah, have a great holidays if we don't speak to you soon. Bye.
thanks, mate.
Hi, I'm Billy, a developmental paediatrician.
And I'm Nick, a developing parent.
We're going to use scenes from iconic movies to talk about how we best support our kids.
This is Pop Culture Parenting.
Hey, don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
I don't want to see you again for the rest of my whole life. And I don't want to see anybody else either.
Who is it, Daddy? And what does it do?
Just use your best judgment. We trust you.
Good morning, Dr. Billy Garvey. How are you?
I'm good, Dr. Nick. Very good.
That's
As always, it's a delightful way to start my day.
Speaking of Dr. Nick, we had someone who claimed first
Yeah.
this week.
Lovely person I met on the street. It was funny because I was running very late and they're like, Dr. Billy. And they're like, am I stopping you? Have you got time for a chat? I was like, definitely. So
You can't go anywhere.
yeah, exactly. A captive audience.
I'll take it.
Yeah, my ideal. And I did the Santa photos for the first time the other day, and that's probably what I'd request off Santa. Someone to listen to me, soapbox. But it was beautiful. Yeah, I met a great mum who said that she was the first person that sent in Dr. Nick. Which is great. I wonder if we could find the first person that did Heineken. Because people still send in, because they obviously haven't listened to us talking about that. So people still send in going, do you guys realise it sounds like you're saying Heineken?
Yep. And pictures from overseas. Heineken.
Yeah, one of the greats sent us that.
Yeah.
But yeah, how are you going?
Yeah, good. Just full flight, much like yourself. We've had a busy week, you and I.
Yes, yeah. We've had an amazing week, actually. Yeah, we spent a whole day in strategy, some very exciting stuff coming next year, including the live tour. So, yes, the live tour. So hopefully by the time this comes out, those ticket sales are humming.
Hopefully it's sold out.
Because I did put down, I think it was 14,000 for Melbourne Arts Centre. I was like, are we going to sell any of these? Just come home to Annalise and say, So we're going to hang out one night at the Melbourne Arts Centre. It's a very expensive night.
Spacious.
Try not to think about the cost. But that's sold out in 40 minutes. So hopefully it happens again, and it's going to be amazing. Lots of surprises, whole experience.
Yep, full experience.
Show starts before the show starts.
It's not
Doesn't
just
end when the show ends.
Oh God, you are promising everything, and I love it.
Well, remember we had to get kicked out of the Arts Centre.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah.
guys, we've got to close the building. You've got to get.
I think the people that came to the show really wanted to leave as well. We're like, all right, we'll unlock the doors.
I'm just standing in the
we'll
door.
unlock the doors, fine. I don't care if it's a fire hazard.
So yeah, but that's going to be really exciting strategy. And then we got together a lot of our partners to celebrate how amazing they are. Because yeah, PCP and Guiding Growing Minds, it's probably like 70 people that are the reason it happens, and I take most of the glory.
Yeah. You do. No, but it was amazing being there the other night. So I'm not close to everything that goes on with Guiding Growing Minds. I'm a one-trick pony over here, and
More than that, what a trick!
But it was amazing seeing all these people. And Billy's like, yeah, all these people are just here helping, and I was like, oh my God, they are literally all here. Like helping, donating time, supporting, doing all sorts of things other than just donating time, but like putting a lot of skin in the game. And
it's so funny because even that night, like a lot of those people hadn't met each other, and like the academics were coming up going, I can't believe you've got like the big businesses here and the corporates, and you've got the charities, and then the charities were like, I can't believe you got the academics and the corporates. The corporates were like, I can't believe you got the clinicians and the researchers. And the academics and the not-for-profits, like
it is dynamic, and I'm not just trying to blow it up, but like the intelligence in the place that night, I was like, goodness gracious, there was professors and there was people doing some of the toughest jobs I've seen in Melbourne.
Yeah, some coalface educators, like amazing principals,
incredible, and just like the hats the principals wear is wild.
Yeah, those guys are amazing.
I'm doing this now and I'm doing that. So how do you, but you're trained as a teacher, but you do, whether it's like builds or whatever, just all these things. And I was like, my goodness. It was incredible.
Oh, yeah, not to get down too much, but one of those prints had just had a family relinquish care of a kid and drop him off at school and say, we're done. That's what he holds. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that a bit, but
yes.
Yeah,
but yeah,
full on. And he's rolling in, supporting Guiding Growing Minds.
Yeah.
Off the back of that.
Yeah, on a Monday. Yeah. Anyway, cool.
Because that's what we're going to do. Like, let's touch on the topic. That's what we're talking about.
Yep.
Talking about those kids and everyone else. We're talking about,
proximity.
Yeah, beautiful, that proximity. Yeah, Yuri's work.
Yeah, give me a quick recount, Billy. So this is a reflection on love,
episode
actually.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, this is episode 1, 2, 3.
It's got a bit of Jackson 5 to it, that. Maybe we should do that.
You guys have to do jazz hands.
What do you reckon? Come out. ABC 1, 2, 3.
I got it. I can do it. I can be Tito.
And yeah, so it was all about Yuri and his work in the bioecological model, really about how there's all these things that influence kids. And we often think about just our direct interactions with them, but there's so much that influences them. And it's probably a good lead in to the polls, actually, because the polls will actually break that down a bit better.
We asked people via Instagram. If you're not following us, go over to Pop Culture Parenting on Instagram and follow us there. Like, share, follow, please.
Yes, please.
Please. Hey, do you think the world is getting harder for kids? 95% of people said yes.
Yeah, and that's like 13,000 people. So like, like just thinking about that responded or interacted with that poll. And so, yeah, it's pretty wild. And on a lot of metrics, they're right. Like it's not an opinion thing. It's like, family violence is increasing, childhood anxiety is increasing, lack of community connection. Like a lot of metrics, suicide is still the leading cause of death for 15 to 24-year-olds in this country and globally. So it's really interesting to think about that. I don't know, do you feel it?
I think it's getting more complex, is how I'd say it, which is, you
are a glasses half full.
That's a pretty smarty pants way of saying I sort of agree. I don't like to think it's getting harder. I think it's more complex, which in fact makes it hard for kids. Yeah, those aspects too. I just think it's complex, mate. But maybe it always has been. What the hell? I might look back in 40 years and go, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm so new to it still. Do you know, like that kind of thing, the older you get, the less you feel like you know?
Yeah, you realise.
It's real.
Yeah.
You're like, I used to just think, I didn't used to think that, anyway, just learning about and being exposed to new things, you're like, oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
I thought I was under control. Illusion.
Yeah.
Anyway. Billy, next one. Which influence is the most challenging? So I want you to run through these just quickly because there's four aspects in the system of influence. Is that what you're saying?
We only put 4. There's 5, but I can go through them quickly if you want.
Yeah. So
Well, I put them in. I've given them in the lowest to highest ranking there, so it's going to confuse. But the actual order they occur in, inwards out, is microsystem, which is the direct interaction the kid exists in. So the household, the school, the sporting club. The mesosystem is the interactions of those between each other. So your relationship with the girls' teachers. The exosystem, which is the don't directly interact with the kid but have an influence on them, is the example that is your workplace. So you're having a stressful time at work and you come home and have less capacity to support the girls. Then there's the macro system, which is the culture that's around the kids, how we think about masculinity, how we think about physical discipline, how we think about supporting new parents, all of that stuff. And then there's the chrono system, which is the change over time. I only included 4 of them on the poll to say which one is the most challenging for people to navigate. And it's really interesting to see.
nearly half of everyone said the macro system is the most difficult. Followed by the micro system. And then there was a little bit left in 20% left in the meso system. Remind me what meso was again?
So that's like the kids not directly in that world, but like the interaction between parents and teachers, for example.
Sure. And then the exo system, which is 4%.
And it's funny because you can see how much people have replied, and someone said, like, how come exosystem's so little? Am I the only one working in a toxic workplace?
Am I the only one?
And it's still like 1,000 people. But it's really interesting because I think that we're probably just not as consciously aware of how much that stressor that the kid is not directly in is impacting the kid. Does that make sense? So like your workplace doesn't give you leave, you're getting bullied there, you're completely overwhelmed, it's draining all your energy. You've got uncertainty about job security, whatever. Obviously, that's going to impact the kid. The kid never been to your work, has nothing to do, doesn't know your boss's name. But
exactly,
it's a good way. It's a bit easier to understand that than the macro system and how that influences kids. So it's interesting that people said because micro was first, wasn't it? No, macro was first. So, and there is a lot of worrying things happening culturally around kids. So, but the final poll question:
do you believe we can make things better? 90% of people said yes.
Yeah, and I think that's true as well. I think there's obviously, like, Guiding Growing Minds is working really hard to achieve that, and I think that we try and influence all those spheres.
Yeah, so. And just for the 10% of people that didn't, if you go back and listen to the last episode, there was a point in which I was like, well, is this insurmountable? Yeah. Like, is this hopeless? And I was there for a bit. Like, I was like, this sounds so vast and difficult. Anyway, not saying it'll pass for those people, but for me, when you went through it all, I think I said to you, didn't I? I was like, what can we actually influence here, mate? Like, what's possible? Yeah. You're like, no, you can. Anyway.
Yeah, so there's heaps. There's 4 years, can you believe that? 4-year back catalogue of hopefully stuff that's helpful.
That is going to be readily accessible. It's already accessible today.
Yeah, but we're going to try and figure out how to make it easier to navigate.
No, we will.
we will.
I think that was my takeaway from the strategy day. Got to action that item.
Yeah, that's one of the many cool things. A couple of world firsts are coming into strategy, which is really cool. But yes, and I think going back, like, it's really interesting looking back at the year because we had conflict resolution, beautiful boys, connection, Edward Scissorhands.
Beautiful Boys, most popular episode series on the year, if you're interested in knowing. It did get deep into the data over the last couple of weeks, people, and had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, we did some beautiful slides. If you ever want, maybe that'll be the next request after all the people that want to see you do some composting.
Maybe the live show. Maybe the live show might include a little bit of slideshow action. I'm just saying, Billy.
I think there might be a special guest who's doing that. I don't want to spoil. You do know who it is, but I don't want to spoil. Anyway, hopefully that helps people get over their line to buy a
Right.
ticket.
And a slide pack from Nickel. I'll circulate. Anyway, let's take it offline, Billy. Hey, should we continue with the shorts?
Yeah, so we're going to do shorts. We're going to do, I think, 10 shorts and then 9 reflections.
Flat out
So
reflections.
This is just like a celebration. There's some really beautiful stuff in it, some funny stuff in it. I forgot to text you to say that I sent it to you, so this
Stop.
will be a completely...
Stop. This is fresh eyes coming at it. There was a breakdown in communication and I have not read anything. I bet you that we lost about 10% of the people after I said that because those are the long-term listeners. If I haven't read the questions, it makes for a pretty tough listen. Look, at least hang around for the shorts because they're pretty punchy. It's the longs that people are going to be like, oh my God.
Yeah, well, intentionally, like... We don't generate like revenue off how much people listen or how long they stay for, but I end on an amazing one, so it's worth staying.
Hey, shorts. Question one, Billy. Switch on, mate.
Give it to me.
How do we stay more present and grounded in a fast-paced world that demands so much?
You got anything for that? I do, but
I hope you do. No, it's overwhelming just hearing that question. How do we? I'm not sure what your response will be. I don't know. Actually, you just go and I'll build on it if I've got it.
So how do any of us get better at anything?
Practice?
Practice. When do we practice?
Not in the moment of pressure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you can practice it right now, being present in the moment.
I am.
Yeah, I'm here with you. Can use interoception. How's my body feeling? Feel really relaxed. Went for a run.
So you got to prioritise it.
Yeah. With someone I love, doing something I love. That helps me, but it helps me forget about all the other stuff that I've got to achieve today, all the other things I've got to do, the stresses that are in my life and all that stuff, because I'm practicing it. It doesn't just happen. It's like everything. And I've been actually really working on this off the back of a pretty horrible month of just doing this. We did this amazing parenting workshop follow-up, the Sydney one, and we just did that. We just worked. We spent a whole hour on co-regulation. Just amazing. I never get an hour on co-regulation. It's usually like one slide. But I just did an hour on how you co-regulate. It's just like, these are the 5 steps, and we step through each of them. And the first step is, how are you going before you go anywhere near the kid? So you have to practice it, is the long answer to that short question.
Why don't you give the people the 4 more steps so we can recall them off the top of your head just quickly? Just because people will be like, oh, hang on, what were they?
Yep, totally. So then you, very quickly. Yeah. So how am I going? Go to the kid with curiosity, not frustration. What's going on for the kid? Go to the kid to connect. Think about how we connect. That's 3. So remember, we connect before we co-regulate. That was the evidence to the hand.
Totally.
So we think about connecting. We do that through body language, tone of voice, more than what we say, calm, open. Sorry, this is happening to you. You know, and then the co-regulation is trying to get them to catch our calm, which we've talked a lot about. How am I sensitive and responsive and consistent and predictable? The sensitivity and responsiveness is, how are you going? I've got me in check. Now I need to help you get calm. How are you going?
Good.
Yeah, what I'm doing is working, because it looks like you're getting more calm. I can feel you calm. It's not working, I've got to adapt. That's a responsiveness. Then we co-regulate, bring you back down, and then we limit set. Then we step it through. Then we say, hey, mate, can't hit your brother. You know, what are we going to do? We can do this together. Then we problem solve. What do you think we can do to make him feel like he's loved? What do you think we can do to go back more confidently into that space? Remember, pulling them out is really important. I almost always do that move. Almost always pull them out. Talked last episode, sometimes I pull the kid out of the clinic room because I'm like, this is too much for the kid. But I've had a beautiful week of seeing kids that I'm not going to see again, some of them because they're going to age out and I'm not there next year in clinic. And I've also had these gorgeous little kids. I had a beautiful little 5-year-old actually who's having a really tough time, and he is such a beautiful kid. Like, everyone around him, like, he's really struggling and he thinks he's a bad kid. He doesn't think he's a bad kid when he's in my room because I'm pumped to see him. I would have spent the first 10 minutes just talking to him, just hearing about him, and it's beautiful. He's got like this beautiful little voice. I tell him when he walks in, I'm like, mate, I'm so excited to see you. You know, without saying his name, I'm like, checking in. I'm remembering this stuff. Like my notes are not about like what's wrong with this kid. It's like what's his favourite thing to do. With the teenagers, what video games are they playing? You know, what do they think they're good at? Like we've talked about. That's why I come back to that stuff. But I'm just genuinely pumped to see them. I'm genuinely pumped to see the parent. I'm like really excited.
So you just want him to leave feeling good about himself.
Yeah, I can direct that. So that's my sphere. Like the toughest kids out there, I'll see them less in a year than the educators will in a day. So I don't want to pretend that I'm like saving the world, but I want that kid to feel good about himself. But it was like the highlight of my day. Like that was, I think, 2 days ago. Like, and we'll talk about some of the other kids I've seen this week because I've been thinking about it in the context of this. But you know, that kid is really struggling. You know, he's having a really tough time. And it's, you know, there's questions about medication and diagnoses and all that stuff. But I reckon the most impactful thing that I'll do is just be pumped to see him and connect with him. And if he dysregulates, then I've earned it. I've earned the ability to connect with him and co-regulate him. Do you know
You're going to miss clinic, aren't you?
Oh, massively. Yeah, I think I've said I was like, over in 16 years, I haven't had more than like 3 or 4 weeks off. And yeah, when we were in WA last year, I was like, this is paradise. I don't know why I'm struggling. Like, I'm fine, feeling a bit low. Just standing crammed in an RV with the kids, one of the best holidays of my life. And Annalisa's like, well, you're not in clinic, you're not doing the pod. So, of course, you're feeling a bit flat. It's like such a big part of my identity, which we'll get into actually. Cool. But yeah, so that's how. Hopefully that's the longest answer I've ever given to a short.
No, I asked multiple questions. Hey, Billy, how does one healthy adult relationship counteract years of childhood trauma?
Yes, I mean, we've talked about this over the 4 years. There's a couple of things to really think about. Is that childhood trauma, what it does is wires you to not feel safe. So you threat seek, you don't trust people, where's the next harm coming from, all of that stuff. And a lot of us, like, grew up in that environment, and it's only, like, in our 30s that we really, or whenever, that we really learnt. And it's often a relationship. Often it just takes one relationship that challenges that and goes, actually, you're safe with me.
So the relationship challenges everything you've known.
Yeah. Yeah, so it rewires your brain.
So it's like a bit of a disruptor.
Yeah, it's a disruptor, but you're learning a new language. Think about it like that. So, you know, you're learning a new language. And it's hard at first because you go, I don't know this, my brain doesn't know this.
I don't know this language.
Yeah. But a language of unconditional love and positive regard.
Disrupts.
Yeah.
I don't think of it that way.
We can have conflict, but we come back together. You're allowed to have emotions. You're allowed to have frustration. You're allowed to lash out. There'll be consequences, and I will show that I'm hurt, but I won't withdraw love from you. I won't punish you. And that rewires a kid and an adult's brain. And that's how it does it.
Brilliant. Hey, Billy. I know we're going to go through this in the new year, I think. We're going to look at this in the new year, but
yes,
I want to know. I want to know social media and AI. How do we prepare our young kids for this reality?
Yeah. So as you said at the start, it's complex, and a lot of it's being simplified unfairly and somewhat destructively. But there's a beautiful quote which I actually had to check, and I'm like, my quote's wrong. Lord of the Rings, which you need to do. Phenomenal movie. One of my faves. Are you a big Lord of the Rings fan?
Yeah, I couldn't read the books
yeah.
when I was younger. I found it complex, but go on.
Yeah. There's this beautiful moment in, I think it's the final movie where Gandalf says, like, you're soldiers of Gondor. Whatever comes through that gate, you'll hold your ground.
Oh.
And it's this beautiful thing. But I'd always interpreted it, I thought it was the orc. And, the cave troll when it's coming through in the first movie. And my way that I think about this is a quote that often rings through my head, often with the kids I see in clinic, not my own kids, but I should be like this with my own kids, which is, whatever comes, we face it together. And so it's a really nice way to think about that, about like what's coming with social media, what's coming with AI. You know, so we've done 4 years back catalogue of skill development in this stuff. Secure self-esteem, bullying. Like, how do we help our kids understand the risk that exists in those environments? How do we understand critical analysis? How do we make them know that their identity is not defined by how many followers they have, whatever? So all of that work we've talked about over the last 4 years. But a general concept for anything that's stressor is that I don't know, and being open and honest about that. I'm not sure what's going to be like for this. I'm a bit worried about it too. So being open and vulnerable about our uncertainty and our stress and our worry and our anxiety, but also being like, but we will face it together, is a really good, you can stick that onto anything. Like, what are we going to do about this? I'm not sure, but we'll do it together, and I'll seek help from people who might be able to help. And if that's PCP, if that's GGM, that's awesome. If it's not, find other people. There's literally thousands of amazing people out there. Just make sure they're actually qualified, but, that do amazing work in this space.
Okay. Billy, I don't remember being as anxious as teenagers are now. What's changed?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. One of the big things is that we, it's like, autism wasn't around back in my day. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, it was. We just were like, you're the bad kid, get out of here. Or
Right.
they'd be expelled, or they'd be sent to the principal's office every day, or they'd be humming with anxiety, and they'd just be masking and like all that stuff. So as our awareness has increased, we're like, oh, that angry kid is actually anxious.
Yep.
Like, we're still not great at that, but we're much better than we were when we were kids. So there's that. There's also a lack of connection to community that we know, we track it, it's occurred.
And why does that cause anxiety?
Because it increases family violence, it increases lack of protective factors such as relationships,
Broader
sense of
protective
identity.
factors,
all
you're
the
so
Yuri
reliant on,
stuff.
you've got single point sensitivity if it's just your family.
So if you didn't have protective relationships in your life, you just lived on your own, you didn't have kids and you just rolled into work, didn't have mates that you'd have a beer with, didn't care about the pies, but all those things would make you more vulnerable to mental illness.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it's not,
So the
it's not because
isolation-
something's always wrong, it's a lack of protective.
It's a lack of things. Yeah, it's not,
So the normal stresses you can't handle. Remembering resilience is the ability to experience, go through, process and handle adversity in a healthy way. And so you build that really through a lot of protective relationships, not through awful experiences. So that's why. So, and there's like things like we talked about, like in the Fifth Element in the Future episode, like there's an increasing anxiety around climate. Conflicts around the world are not stopping. They're somewhat increasing in certain ways. Like, there's a lot of information that's coming to kids, that is really worrying. We didn't have that content exposure. Like, we weren't aware of what was going on in the world like kids are these days. Growing up too fast, all that kind of stuff. There's so many different things that are showing us why the rates of anxiety are increasing, which is statistically proven. So people out there that are like, kids are too soft these days, like, that's great, but that's just your opinion. There's science and evidence shows that that's actually wrong, which is always hard to say on the pod. I don't like telling people they're wrong.
Great answer. Hey, can a secure and loving microsphere protect kids from a frightening and overwhelming macrosphere?
Yeah, so a better word than protect is buffer. So it buffers.
Yeah.
So it can't, there's lots of families that are, like, a lot of the families I meet are just phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal. But the challenge is that they're not immune to the external world outside of their home or the external world outside of their classroom, because that is such a protective environment.
Yeah.
We know that there's a huge influence that it has. And, going back to what I was talking about before, kids that grow up in like war and conflict have better outcomes when they have parents that are present, have the capacity to support them, not shield them from all the awful stuff that's happening in their community. But that's a really protective factor. Like, remembering that, like, a lot of the data around this stuff initially came out of, as we've spoken about, Eastern European orphanages, where they got their food, they got their clothing, they got their nappies changed, but none of the, like, midwives and staff that were there had the capacity to actually engage with these kids, and their rates of mental illness were horrific. So that also proves just how important the actual interaction and relationships with us are. But it doesn't mean that if the outside world says you're less than everyone else because of some element of you, your gender or your race or your belief system, then it buffers you, but it doesn't completely protect you from the adversity that might exist in that macrosphere. So that's why the macrosphere is really important, that we can't ignore it.
Awesome. Hey, Billy, are we Sorry, I'll start again. Billy, are we formalising education too early? And what impact is this having on children?
It's a great question. So, developmental domains, which is things like emotional maturity, social competence, those kind of things. When we measure kids when they enter school, nationally, we do it. The data internationally matches as well. We capture about 95% of kids.
Yep.
There are more kids now. There's about a quarter of kids that are starting school developmentally vulnerable. So really massive red flags that they're really, really, really far behind in their emotional maturity or their social development, things like that.
Nothing to do with their ability to read or write or do
That's
maths.
part of it.
It
But
is?
yeah, that's one
Small
of the domains,
component.
is things like that. And yeah, so we know a quarter of kids are starting in that, in one element. And I think it's 12.5% of kids in 2 or more domains. So
Right.
more, and that's increasing. That's
How many
worsening
domains
over
are there
time.
roughly?
There's 5.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
So that's increasing over time.
Gotcha.
So it's getting worse and worse and worse over time. Part of it's the pandemic, but we were doing this pre-pandemic and it's worse than then. And what that shows us is that kids are not actually equipped to start in a school environment. So when you go, you don't have emotional maturity yet or you don't have social competence, but come and learn how to read and write, there's a risk there, isn't there? That we've missed a step and we don't go back to it and go, actually, you're behind where you should be in regards to empathy. You're behind where you should be in regards to communication. You're behind where you should be in terms of just understanding your emotions, like those type of things. And so when we formalise education for those kids, it puts them at great risk. And I meet teenagers every day that are still stuck in preschool stuff. So thinking about how do we actually think about the journey that families have before they get... We're doing this amazing stuff with, orgs like Mindaru and UNICEF and ARACI, thinking about like how can Guiding Growing Minds help in this space, because early education is so important. There's been some awful stuff that's happened this year in the early education space that has meant more people are pulling their kids out of those environments. We know they're protective, especially if they're high quality. A component of high quality early education is the educators having the developmental understanding of how to support kids in things like behavioural difficulties. We deliver and provide that because we know that's the main reason educators leave the profession. So there's so much we can do, but I do think there is some evidence that points to, yes, we are formalising education too early. And thinking about, often it's not the age of the kid, it's often their emotional and social development that determines whether they're ready to step into that environment and succeed, or do they need more help before they get there.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks, Billy. How can community members, even those without kids, meaningfully support children?
Yeah. I saw that come through, and I was actually sitting with a kid, a 16-year-old who, between the last time I saw him and now, was violently attacked and put in hospital by a number of peers. And he refuses to tell the cops who did it because they've been threatening his family. One of the girls pulled a knife when they attacked him, and one of the other kids told them to put it away. Thank God, he was on his own. And this is not the first time this kid's experienced this. This family are not living in their home because they were violently attacked there, so they're all sleeping on grandma's house. Child protection are involved, this amazing worker who got back to me the other day about how to support him. And this kid is really vulnerable. He's got an intellectual disability, has ADHD, he's got a really insecure self-esteem. He's a beautiful kid who just, and even mum thinks that's just what the world's like. Oh yeah, she got assaulted. She's still got like a massive scar on her head from where she got hit with a paver by a teenager as she was trying to protect her sons from being violently assaulted. So yeah, and she just thinks the world's normal. It's wild. It's wild. She's just like, hey, this is just what it's like. It's really important. Once again, we tell these stories that these kids are experiencing. And this kid is so vulnerable because he's just being manipulated and all this stuff. So really worrying stuff. But the cool story? He's sitting there and he's in like this new gear. These guys don't have cash. Like they're struggling every paycheck to get through. They're on government funding stuff and they're in government housing. They're not in the housing because they got violently assaulted there. Multi-generational trauma through this whole family. Dad's gone. Not interested in the kids, not even interested. He found out about this happening and wasn't interested that it happened to his son, that he got violently assaulted and put in hospital. So imagine what that's like. Once again, I hear that bit, the kid's just sitting there, just normal. He's not like, isn't that awful, really emotionally impacted by it, because he just thinks that's the way the world is. But the cool bit about the story is that he's in this new kit, sitting there, and she's like, but, because I think she could tell it was getting to me, the mum. Like, isn't that crazy that she's worrying about me emotionally, telling me that this has happened to her again? Because I was just like really upset about it. I'm like, I'm so sorry this has happened to you, mate. You don't deserve this. It's not your fault. And what we're trying to find for that kid, because he's dropped out of school as well, is protective relationships, And so anyway, he's in this new gear, and she's like, oh, something good has happened though, Billy. And she's like, I went into this store and he really wanted this hoodie, and he really likes it, and he's been really good because he doesn't leave the house now because he's so scared. Like his older brother won't leave the house when it's dark because he's been assaulted so many times, but he won't leave the house at all now, unless he's with his grandma or his mum or his older brother who's a champion that I used to see when he was younger. And he's been really good. He's been staying home. So I went into this clothing store at the big shopping centre and he really wanted this hoodie, and I went up and asked if I could put it on lay-by because we couldn't afford to pay for the jumper. It's like just one of those low-budget stores. But she's like, but, they said, no, you can't do lay-bys on something that small for cost or something. So we walked out and he's really disappointed. But this man heard me and came up and said, it's all right, I got it. And he bought the hoodie, the pants, the T-shirt, the shorts, all for this logo. And he just didn't say anything else. He was just like, it's all good, it's all good. And he's like, I just wanted to do something nice today and this is what I got to do. And I was just like, what a fucking champion. Like, he's just sensed it. He doesn't know the kid's story. He's just like sensed. He's watched a mum go up who, probably from looking at them can tell that life's not easy. Asks hello by a hoodie, disappointed, talking to 16-year-old through it as they're walking out of there. And he just goes, I got this. And that's what gives me hope. And that's how one person can make a difference. Now, ideally, I want him to get to know the kid, because he needs mentors, he needs relationships more than he needs the jumper. But it was just such a beautiful story that it went from like the worst part of my day hearing about what was happening to this kid that I know really well and adore to like, man, there's some hope.
Not a dry eye in the studio right now. Just give us a second. Oh, okay. Don't know what the next question is.
I think it's
all right. No, we'll face into it. Whatever is number 8, Billy. You're answering. I'm reading. Okay. Hey, Billy, how can educators make an actual impact when they feel drained of hope?
What's the first step in co-regulation?
Check yourself.
Yeah. And so you've got to educators have got to look after themselves. They've got to support each other better. Like, I think I published evidence maybe 8 years ago now about leadership is so important in schools and predicts how well they'll support kids that need extra help. And it's leadership saying, how are all my educators going?
Can I find that paper if I wanted to read that paper?
Yes, yep, you definitely can. We should put them somewhere on the website or in Patreon or something. All the papers that
if
I've
someone
published.
was listening though and wanted to Google while you're listening, don't turn off the podcast. But
if you search my name and you know what I put in the title, positive deviance. It's such a cool. Because positive deviance, I don't know if that makes sense. It was positive deviant schools, so they deviate from the normal processes that exist in schools in a positive way. Yeah. So I was like, it's such a cool term, positive deviant. So if you use Google Scholar, and you'll see there's a number of things that we found in that research that are protected, but that's one of them. And so leadership needs to look after the educators. And I know, once again, a bit like with kids, the leadership doesn't say, yeah, we look after our educators. The educators say, yes, you look after me. In the same way that we don't say we look after our kids. They say, yeah, I'm looked after. I feel unconditionally loved and supported.
Okay.
Yep. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So, and educators, schools and school leadership's got so much on their plate, but how do you check in and know how your educators are actually going? And the best schools I've ever met do that proactively. Mm-hmm. They have open doors. They check in on how the individual's going, not the professional. Mm. But anyway, it's a long-winded answer.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Hey, Billy, how do we safeguard a child's sense of identity and safety in the current social climate?
That's a complex one, so I won't unfairly get you off the cuff.
You could tell I was not. When I stop looking at you, it's when I can't answer. I think they want to hear from you.
Ask one of the other kids.
Ask someone else in the room.
Tie my shoelace.
I'm wearing boots. No laces.
It's really interesting. My answer to that question is in terms of identity and sense of safety, is check in with how the kid's going. Mm-hmm. So we talked about that in both realms. So watch them, observe them, learn about them. So
don't just ask questions and expect really clear answers.
Yeah, don't say, do you feel safe, mate? Yeah. It's like, how are you going? Is this kid, remember all the signs that we worry about something is a kid is shutting down, a kid is lashing out. They're withdrawing, they're not engaging, they're masking.
Doing less of the things they used to do.
Yeah, they're not sleeping well, not eating well. They're struggling to focus, they're angry all the time. Those are all signs that a kid doesn't feel safe. And so thinking about, am I watching this kid, does this kid feel safe? Identity is really important. Identity is really about diversity of identity. So I meet a lot of kids in clinic who they just have one thing they're good at, and understandably, everyone is honed on it because they also have learning difficulties or they also have something else. But yeah, I saw a kid recently who's like one of the best in the country at one thing, and he's in an environment, and I was like, how are you going there? And he's like, oh, I don't like any of the other kids. And I'm like, how come? And he's like, well, because they don't respect how good I am at this thing. And I'm just like, yeah, you need to have a better social understanding than that. You need to have a sense of identity that's not the one thing that you're good at. Show interest in them. Like, how do you actually have social skills? You're bigger than that thing, like, so identity is really interesting. And one of the greatest vulnerabilities with identity is we press an identity onto a kid. We're like, you're so brave, you're so courageous. And sometimes you set the kid up for a fall because they're not like that. They're not actually, they really struggle with that, And if you did it, if you said you're so good at bike riding, go on the BMX track, and the kid can't actually ride the bike. Whereas if you go, oh, you're so social and you're so good at all this stuff and you're so confident, and you throw the kid into the lion's den, when actually that's not who they are. Now, you might help them build those skills, but you've got to be really careful that we don't press identities onto kids where they don't have that capacity yet.
What's a better way for someone that might say, you're really good at riding a bike? What might be a better way of sort of phrasing that up?
Thinking about, does this matter to the kid?
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Do you
there'll be some kids that are introverted and they
though?
don't want to be social, and they're just like, no, I'm actually cool just playing Lego solo. It's like, sweet, if you're actually cool and you're doing really well and you do get an opportunity to socialise and interact with other people, then I don't care if you're the life of the party or not. But if you're watching other kids and going, I wish my kid was the one that put his hand up first, and I wish my kid was the one that could like lose it past the parcel and be totally sweet with it, just think, if that really matters, I need to make sure it matters to the kid, and I need to help them gradually build the capacity to do that, not just give them some pep talk and go, you're so good at this, and roll them in. It's just not going to work. You know what I mean? So the bike example is easier because you're like, with the bike, you're like, cool, does this matter to the kid first? Because often it matters to us more. It's not that, and there's actually a beautiful I'm so glad you used that analogy, because it's a beautiful reflection that I think I got you to read because of how much you'll love it.
Okay, cool. Last short question before we kick off into the reflections, Billy. What's the secret ingredient to building the village in a world of isolation and disconnection?
Do you know what I think is the secret ingredient? What? You have to put into it before you can take out of it.
Yep.
Do you agree? Like, because you do that.
I've got some people around me that put in.
Yeah.
Like, I've got those guys, all of those sort of friends, those friends that, of mine around sort of my age and kids and all that sort of stuff. All of those parents are like on things like the local kindergarten committee.
Yeah.
And first to do a working bee and won't miss it. Those sorts of things. So just to say that,
exactly, and then you can withdraw from it. Like, but you're rolling. I remember there was some I can't remember, some parenting podcast, and like, where's this goddamn village that I keep hearing about? And it's like, what do you contribute to the value?
You got to put some down payments down.
You just want people to be, helping you out. But who are you helping? And it's interesting because it's obviously, from a transactional component, really powerful, but also all the evidence shows us that actions like that, behaviors like that, are protective for your mental health. So it's actually a selfish thing to do that. I put hours and hours into this. I get way more out of it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
it.
it's just it's a privilege that protects my mental health. Like, you do these things in your community. Like, every second person on your street, like, knows you, talks about how you've given their kid eggs, you've helped them out with this and that. That's actually really protective for you. And that's probably the thing that I think we miss a bit. We just look around and go, how come no one's helping me more? But, like that mum I just talked about before, she's like, harrowing, awful story. She's thinking about me in the room. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, and so coming around, people more is the way that you benefit from it. And that's, I think, what we need to work on more and understand that better.
Yeah. Billy, reflection time.
I think I've got the first
Billy,
one.
you got the first one.
I know. Sorry, it was more just because I want the last one. I want the last one.
How many have we got?
9.
Beautiful.
Okay. Hey guys, it appears that every fortnight I'm compelled to write in because it all gets me in the feels. And I feel like I start off each time I go to write and saying how it relates and meant to me, but this takes the cake. I have so many drafts or starts, but I struggle to finish, but this time I couldn't stop writing. Or soapboxing, as you would say, Billy. 2 years ago, we welcomed 3 under 3 to our home. I'll never forget their scared little faces. They came with little, and in fact what they did come with was not suitable. I remember vividly waking to the night terrors and the small sobs. So just for people that don't understand, these kids in out-of-home care that have got dropped off to this person. just in case that context was mixed. 2 years ago, we welcomed 3 under 3 to our home.
A third?
Yeah, so 3 kids.
Hang
Under
on.
3.
Sorry. Okay, just go on. Yeah, I don't. Yep.
Yeah, 2 years ago, we welcomed 3 under 3 to our home. So they try and keep these kids together.
Oh,
So they've dropped them
there's
off to
3
this bit.
siblings.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the evidence shows we should keep siblings together.
Right.
I remember vividly waking to their night terrors and small sobs. I would be woken upwards of 9 times a night. I was exhausted, they were exhausted, we were all exhausted. My biological kids are older and I'd completely forgotten about broken sleep, but like riding a bike, I remembered that routine is the key to success, so that was our first goal. A routine, and 2 years later it's paid off in spades. Having all 3 asleep by 6:37 is a brag I'm going to do. Next, it was being stable, always following through on what I would say, and I would. Then attachment. I love these kids wholeheartedly. There is a small chance they will reunify with their parents, and if they do, there is 2 ways I can look at it. 1, heartbroken and unsure of their future. Or, know they've had another adult believe in them and love them and hopefully put in place things that will help them realise their amazing potential. Someone once said to me, just because you're predisposed doesn't mean that it's your destiny. And that is my constant reminder. From being the kids with nothing but fear in their eyes and experiences that no child should ever have, to these truly incredible little people who light up our lives. It's not an easy road. Trauma is a formidable challenger, but together with love, we can at least try. Sending love and a Merry Christmas, my North Stars. Anyway, you're up, mate.
Number 2. Hello, gents. Right now it's September 2nd, and although you haven't put out a call, I'm hoping by the time this email is scheduled to send, early December, you'll be soliciting Winslow's for the yearly wrap-up. This person has put this on the delayed send. I had such a huge win this year with my son that I just couldn't wait until December to get it down in an email. My son is the middle child and will turn 10 years old 3 years after my own birthday next
3 days after.
Sorry, 3 days after. Sorry.
Okay.
Although he has a really easygoing temperament, he's had anything but an easy life so far. Before he had even started formal schooling, he'd been through parental separation, COVID, and a relocation to the other side of the globe. Since arriving in Perth in late 2020, he and I have been working on building stability and strong connections, the strongest of which was my own father, his grandfather. My son and my dad spent a few really special afternoons in the shed, hot rodding old granny mobiles or tinkering with other tools. They were like 2 kindred souls, and the experience of seeing my father connect with my son is one of the most cherished memories. Unfortunately, my dad died last year after his respiratory disease progressed much quicker than anticipated. Always loved Rottnest Island, and that was an active member, and he was an active member of the Rottnest Island Volunteer Guides for most of his retired life. So our extended family made plans for a special trip to Rottnest, or Rotto, to commemorate him. In case you aren't familiar with it, Rottnest is a reasonably sized island just off the coast of Perth, accessible by ferry or charter plane. To get to around the island, the primary method of transportation is bike. Now my son has never been a natural athletic or physical person, and coupled with all the challenges in his life, I regret to say that learning to ride a bike wasn't very high on either of my priority list of things to teach him or on his list of things he wanted to do. Truth be told, I was pretty nervous about the idea of it because our lives were already so busy, and where was I going to find the time to be able to teach a child to ride who didn't really want to? So 6 months before, I started talking to him about the trip and what it would mean. We both agreed that we'd work towards him riding a bike, as that would be the best way to experience the island. Luckily for me, his older and younger sisters picked up riding fairly quickly, and soon were feeling pretty confident and independent. For my son, however, we just had to be persistent and try to do little bits of practice here and there. backing off the expectations when he felt like it was too much. Throughout the whole process, I could hear Billy's voice ringing in my ear. You've got to remove the pressure here. But I also really felt like if our whole family turned up on an island and he was the only one who couldn't ride, he'd really struggle with that. So we persisted, practicing, pretty much all the way up until the day before we left. He'd successfully managed to ride around our cul-de-sac on his own and could turn, but it was a long way from being able to do 3 to 5 kilometres, so we were pretty nervous for him. We arrived on the island, got off the ferry, collected our bikes, and the first stop I made sure we did was going to get food and treats in the bakery. Sorry. If we were in for a hard time, I was going to play all the available aces I had. Yeah, 100%. Great planning. After a good few hours of quokka spotting, little marsupial, and multiple ice creams, it was time for us to saddle up and ride to our accommodation. That first ride was pretty difficult for him. It was the longest ride he'd ever done to date, and he definitely found some of the hills challenging, but we made it in the end. At the end of the first day, I couldn't tell if he was enjoying the trip or not. He was definitely struggling with the riding, but he was also holding his own. Fast forward to our last full day on the island. I asked him what he wanted to do, and he said, I want to ride the beach with you and go for a swim. At this point, he was feeling a bit more confident, but I was getting worried about him and how he'd go. The hills outside of the main settlement on the island are fairly steep. What happens if he gets too tired and he can't keep riding? I can't really call someone up to come and pick us up. The only way back to the house is on bike. But trusting my son, we embarked to explore the island and discover a new beach. I had Billy's voice echoing in my head. Drop the demand, increase the support. So every time we hit a hill that was too steep, I made sure I hopped off my bike before he did and we just walked to the top. Oh, clever. Instead of focusing on how long the journey took, I started pointing out the interesting sculptures, trees and birds. We even took a few detours to explore some old World War II era buildings and read about the history of the island. When we finally arrived at the beach, he and I spent an hour making a whole sandcastle city and watching the ocean breaking over the shipwrecks. I don't think I've ever felt as positively connected to my son as I did that day. I want to say a huge thank you to you both for what you put out into the world. Thank you for guiding me towards being a better father and being able to connect so deeply with him.
Thought you'd love that.
Oh, bikes. Bikes, mate. Bikes, man. They are...
Yeah,
something about the bike.
Yeah.
Just...
At the kids' pace.
Oh, the kids' pace.
And the old scheduled email.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. The long 3-month run-up. Delay.
All right. Hi, Nick and Billy. I went back and forth on whether I'd send this, but hey, I guess I decided to. I'm a fairly new listener, only discovering the podcast this year. I've completely rinsed your back catalogue and recommend it to anyone and everyone. Much like Billy, I too was a troubled child of the Ninch, which is the peninsula for people who don't know. I had significant issues with my mental health in high school. Most of my teachers had little faith in my potential, and I was seen as too much hard work. I dropped out in year 12 after 3 years of struggling with school attendance, recreational alcohol and drug use, suicidal ideation, and an attempt to take my own life. I was definitely one of those kids the system failed. When I left school, I took on a trade working as a dental nurse. Those few years were hard, but I focused on getting better, and with the support of my parents and a dedicated team at my local headspace, I gradually came out of the hole. Eventually, I decided to resit my VCE via distance and graduated high school at age 21. Fast forward to 2025, I'm a mum of 2 gorgeous boys who are 3 and 7 weeks. And when I'm not on maternity leave, I work as a behaviour support practitioner, behaviour analyst in the NDIS space, as well as in schools with kids in out-of-home care. The work is hard, but I love it. I love feeling like I'm helping give back to the community. I guess I'm writing into you guys for 2 reasons. The first is to thank you for the work you do. I feel like there are very few resources out there for my parents when I was growing up, and I know they found it hard to parent me and to understand what was going on and how to handle it. Had they had your podcast, they would have likely felt better, supported, and would have actionable strategies to help me and themselves. So truly, Nick and Billy, know that your actual impact is incredibly far-reaching. The second reason I'm writing in is to let those parents out there who are struggling with their teenagers know that things can get better. I'm living proof of that. Since I've had my own kids, my parents have reflected with me about how hard my teenage years were for them. But I've also reflected on the fact that they stuck by me. They always supported me unconditionally. Not perfectly, but always there. And that was enough. So those of you listening who are struggling, know that that alone is proof that you're showing up for your kids. Continue to show up for them, continue to learn, and continue to listen to Dr. Nick and Dr. Billy. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. All the best from a Peninsula Princess.
Oh, God. Okay. Jeez. Need to come with a warning with these ones, Billy.
Sorry.
Okay. That's all right. It's all right. I can't see any tissues. Anyway. Hey, Dr. Billy and Dr. Nick, thank you. Doesn't just seem adequate enough to express the gratitude I feel to you both and the community you have created, and particularly to your wonderful families and support networks for facilitating your work. I'm an almost 40-year-old mum who is well and truly in the sandwich generation of ageing parents while raising two beautiful young boys, age 8 and 6. My life is good. My husband and I work hard to give our kids a life full of experiences, culture, activity, fun and love. We have many privileges that allow us to do that, and I am forever grateful for. This year has been a big one. I became unexpectedly unemployed at the beginning of the year, and after working non-stop for most of my adult life, this transition was a shock to my system. I had to find my identity now. What did I say when people asked, "What do you do?" I didn't have a job title to lean back on, and saying I'm just a mum didn't do what I consider most important role ever the justice it deserved. Neurodivergence is also thriving in my world, with my husband working through an ADHD diagnosis last year, my 8-year-old son being diagnosed this year while also having neurosensory hearing loss, and my 66-year-old mother, after significant support and encouragement, also receiving a diagnosis. And let's not even get into the avoidance of getting my own diagnosis, as I just can't deal with all of it at once. Your podcast has been a real guiding light for me this year. I find myself constantly going back and listening to previous episodes just to have a refresher on certain topics when something related happens in my life. I was parentified as a child. What does that mean?
So having to raise kids as a kid yourself.
Okay. Through no intentional fault of anyone's, and the learnings from every week give me not only insights into my parenting today, but how I got this way and how I can be the support and guidance my kids needs. So what have I learned in 2026? I have learned that it is okay to just be a mum. But more importantly, I've learned that by being a mum, I am forever a student, learning about the world and the impact on the individual and through raising the next generation. I am an advocate, being the strong voice for my children and family when they can't use their particularly advocate around disability support needs for my son. When they can't use theirs, I'm an advocate, being a strong voice for my children and family when they can't use theirs, particularly an advocate around disability support needs for my son. I am that mum, the one who is constantly leaving school pickup with my kids, with more kids than she has, always driving the whole team to the games on Saturdays, and whose house is always spaced where my boys and their friends can feel safe and loved. And I'm that annoying person that won't shut up when I hear something insightful on the parenting podcast. Wink, wink. So really, after listening to the most recent episode, the one thing that really got me is the one thing that I hear Dr. Nick say in the intro every single week. I'm a developing parent, always changing, learning, striving to improve, and I could not do it without your guidance and advice. Thank you, and keep bringing that emotional green flag energy to the world.
Amazing. Okay. Hi, superstars. A little over a year ago, I shared a reflection after listening to your resilience episode about my recent miscarriage. Today, I'm incredibly grateful to be writing this while holding my beautiful baby boy. As the year comes to an end, I've been thinking a lot about how much has changed since this time last year, and I want to thank both of you for the time, care, and effort you put into the podcast. Navigating newborn life has been full of moments of pure bliss, immediately followed by moments of complete hopelessness. The limited sleep and constant worry about whether I'm reading his cues right have left me, at times, crying right alongside him. But then I hear your voices in my head. You can never cuddle them too much. You can never love them too much. You can't spoil them too much. Those reminders have given me permission again and again to let the to-do list wait, to release the frustration when his dad wants to hold him, even if it means another failed bassinet attempt, and to accept that some days simply surviving is thriving. Another message that has stayed with me is the permission to acknowledge that love doesn't always arrive instantly. I knew I loved him and always knew I would, but in the hard moments, I found myself questioning everything and wanting to retreat. Only when a tiny human depends on you, walking away isn't really an option. Like you, Billy, I needed time to grow into that deep unconditional love, the kind his dad seemed to feel the moment he saw him. I'm happy to say that these days I cry far more often because I love him so much than because the struggle feels overwhelming. Thank you both for the wisdom you share. I'm excited to keep learning from you and to go back and re-listen to the episodes that match whatever stage we're in next. P.S. Billy, I'm beyond excited about your move to Newcastle. We moved here 2 years ago and it's absolutely stunning. I hope I have the privilege of meeting you someday with love and admiration. Can I just say, because I was almost going to pull that out, but we just read it verbatim. It's a privilege. I'm sure you feel like this. It is an absolute privilege to meet all the people that come up and introduce themselves. I might have said this on the pod before, but Yvette has this really skewed view of the world that people just come up and say hi and thank you. And it's this beautiful lens that she sees everything in. And it's absolutely my privilege. Reminds me of, I don't know if you heard this quote of Jim Carrey saying, I wish that everyone could be rich and famous to realise that's not what it's about. And I wish everyone could do something that they put so much passion into as we do this, and people come up and say thank you. It's it's just such an amazing experience to have. So it's always, hopefully I've said this enough, I love people coming up and saying
I
hi.
love it.
Yeah, and it is an absolute privilege to meet you and hear your stories, whether it's a talk that we go and do or just coming up and saying hi on the street.
I get really startled. Because often I'm like, is this someone I've met before? And I go, Nick, and I go, having yesterday, this bloke called Josh in the city. He goes, Nick, and I was like, hi. And he goes, big fan. I go, oh, God, I haven't met you. Okay. It's like, because I'm out the front of work, I'm like, you're a colleague I haven't seen in 10 years or something, and then I honestly, they go, nice to meet you. I go, yeah. And I like, oh, you got kids, or do you care for kids, or what? And they go, yeah. And they've got their lunch in there. And I'm like, oh, you got to go? I got some time, mate. I've got some time, mate.
I know. It's me, mate. So desperate for connection. I remember this year there was an enormous guy, 6'4", just huge, bulk of it, muscly, heaps of, tats all over him and everything like this, tough, mean-looking guy. And he just came up to me and tapped me at the airport. And he's like, hey, Billy, keep going, mate. What you're doing is amazing. And just kept walking. And I was just like, well, I better not get him upset.
Gotta keep going.
I guess I will keep going. But yeah, it's so it's amazing. I just wanted to say that because it's not it's a privilege for me.
Totally. Number 6, Billy. Hi, Billy, Nick. Many people might interpret my experience as a cautionary tale of hope and connection. When I first discovered your podcast, I couldn't have needed it more. I had just had my 3rd child and was really struggling to support his 3-year-old sibling who was finding the adjustment lonely and difficult. I felt like I was rapidly losing my connection with her, and I remember lying in bed each night worrying about this. This all really impacted my ability to enjoy my baby during this year. Then a beautiful friend sent me a podcast, and it changed my world. Over time, my connection with this child returned to full force as I practiced co-regulation with her, removed the shaming from my parenting style, and working on her self-esteem. We still have our challenging moments, but our connection is strong now, and I feel we can weather the storms that lay ahead. It's amazing to see the impact your podcast is having on our children in real time, as I can actually look at each of them and I see when I started listening to your podcast. My oldest child missed out on these parenting strategies in her early years, and we are now catching up with her on things. Turns out she flew under the radar, and I didn't know she needed the support I give her now. My third child, a baby, when I found your podcast, grew up with these strategies in place from 6 months old and is now preschool age and is perhaps the most emotionally attuned of all of them. Sometimes surprising us with sentences like, "When you make that face at me, mummy, it makes me feel sad." Or telling me that he feels left out when a parent takes only the big kids bike riding. Here's where some might find a cautionary tale. The skill set and support network that you provided through your podcast so greatly improved our connection with our kids and really gave us hope and support, hope that we could support them in the way that they needed. So much so that we decided to try for another child, and now we have baby twins. 5 orchids. Can you imagine? I need a greenhouse. You can have a chuckle when you think of my husband and I calling across the noise for the household at bedtime, saying phrases like, "Do you have a moment to try and connect with him? Or can you redirect her for me?" We've scheduled in sanctuaries with them all. We literally needed an Excel spreadsheet to do this, but it has been such a great thing for us and gives us moments of joy amidst the chaos. Thank you for the hope you've given us. Even on our hardest days, we always feel that we have a framework to revert back to that will give our kids the best chance of strong relationships, good self-esteem, and ultimately happiness.
Amazing. All right, throw it out.
So good.
Hi, doctors. I'm not sure if you've ever had someone write in twice before, but it's been a year since you first shared my story. With no expectation at all this will be shared, I just wanted to offer a small update and how the possible actual impact that we can have on our kids is keeping me going. You've read so many submissions since that I wouldn't expect you to remember mine, but as a quick recap. I wrote in 6 months after becoming a foster to adopt parent of 2 siblings, including a 6-year-old boy. You shared my story in your final 2024 episode on love when I was struggling deeply. Hearing you talk about how hard our situation was and how seen and supported you made me feel in that moment gave me hope when I truly felt like a failure. I can't thank you enough for that. 1 year later, Mr. 6 is now 7. I still wait for every PCP episode and I still struggle with what I thought loving my son would feel like. But I see much more clearly now the impact I have on him and the impact he has had on me. Some behaviours have improved, some have worsened, but what's become clearest is how much my own nervous system shapes his. When I'm tired, overstimulated or dysregulated, he feels it too. When I push, correct or try to force something, it only pushes him further away. I'm learning to let things go and to respond with kindness instead of frustration, which doesn't always come naturally after the tough start we had. For example, last night, Mr. 7 wanted to stay outside making potions as it got dark and closer to shower time. This is a kid who really struggles with transitions, and a year ago would have had an hour-long meltdown, ending with both of us in tears and me probably nursing a couple of fresh bruises. Instead of pushing harder, giving more time warnings, and eventually moving towards anger and threats, I stopped myself and thought about how my actions would impact the rest of our evening. I asked him to leave the potions outside in a safe spot so he could get back to them tomorrow. I said that I would find some bath-friendly ingredients for him to make a new potion. I also said that it was his choice, but if he chose to have a bath instead of a shower, he could stay in the water for longer and have more time to make some new potions before dinner. The look on that kid's face almost broke my heart. He gave me a big hug and a thank you, Mum. He had a bath with no issues. He was genuinely grateful that I was working with him, trying to make things easier, rather than trying to make him fit in with the strict regime of our evening routine. It made me realise just how much I try to exert control over every hour of the day and how damaging it can be for both of us when I try to force him to meet my expectations and behave in a way that I want him to. It also made me proud, because sometimes it's harder to respond with understanding, and because I also know that I would have kept trying even if that first attempt to help him transition hadn't worked. I'm 18 months into parenting now, and I still struggle every day, especially with a toddler entering the terrible 2s. But I'm slowly starting to understand that Mr. 7, who will never be the kid I thought I'd have, and who will never meet those expectations, is amazing. The fact that instead of exploding in anger and lashing out at everyone around him at a playground, he's turned up at the park in full Star Wars attire and spent the whole time acting like a mountain goat is amazing. His inability to be in a classroom for more than 15 minutes, but can be outside investigating nature and gazing in wonder at birds for hours is amazing. The fact that he embraces our whole extended family as his own alongside his biological one is amazing. He is amazing and he deserves everything we, as his parents, his teachers and community can do to meet him where he's at and to change the direction of his life. Dr. Billy, you said in your last episode that sometimes you feel guilty sharing your own story, but I can't tell you how much it matters to parents raising children with trauma to see the incredible adult you've become. It gives us much hope. In my wildest dreams, Mr. Seven would one day do something like you, helping others heal. But most of all, I just want him to feel safe, supported and celebrated. P.S. Just a heads up, your Newey fan club is probably bigger than you realise. We all hope to see you around Apollo one day. I can't tell you how excited I am to go to Newey from all the beautiful messages that have come through. Anyway, amazing stuff.
You're going to love that. Hey, that one got me to start. It took me like quite a while to recover.
Yeah.
God, I hope you've left me with something light here, mate.
Yeah, the last one's tough, just to give it.
The last ones are always tough. I was ready for that.
Yeah.
That one was.
I was gone.
That one was.
I was gone before we got
that
to
one was
the-
really nice. That one was really nice, and it finished really well. And it was nice anyway, but the start got me. Hey, hi Nick and Billy. Just a quick email to give you my reflections from the podcast for 2025. Sorry if this is a bit late. First up, I want to say that I love your podcast so much. I've been listening for about a year now. I first came across Billy at a work conference I was attending in Darwin last year, and I found it really helpful in my parenting journey.
Have I told you about that talk? I'd done a couple of talks where I'd like been at conferences and stuff, and I was just tried it once. I got up onto the podium, it was like, any PCP listeners here? And I'd had a few woo and all that stuff. And Darwin, I reckon it was like 500 people in an auditorium up there, research. And I walked out and was like, hi guys, I'm Billy. Any PCP listeners here? And crickets. It's like, that's not a good start.
We've got a bit of work to do in the NT.
So Darwin, we will eventually come, but we need to grow a bit more.
Maybe to be a coffee with a couple of people. Darwin last year and found it really helpful in my parenting journey. My husband has listened to a few episodes and he's found it super helpful as well. We have two boys, 3-year-old and a 9-month-old. Here are some things that I found useful. Note that not all these may relate directly to the themes covered, as I often learn stuff from listening to your Winslows and Griswolds.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's my mistakes. Number 1, learning how to play with kids. This is definitely something I've struggled with, so really appreciate the practical advice given this episode. My 3-year-old loves playing with Hot Wheels cars and monster trucks, and I've since tried to role play with the cars, feeling different emotions. Since I started doing this, he now tells me what they are feeling without being prompted. I've also really tried to learn how following his lead rather than telling him what to do when we play.
Shout out to the Amazing Mattel crew.
Oh,
Yeah, you got to meet him.
amazing. Oh, yeah. I couldn't leave him alone. Hey, how to support a kid in knowing what's the right thing to do? My 3-year-old was until recently regularly hitting or trying to hit his baby brother, particularly since he started to crawl and move around. But I have found this has drastically improved since I've told him what to do instead. Whether that be asking him for help or giving his brother another toy to play with, etc. I've also found praising him when he does the right thing has helped heaps. In recent weeks, they've brought some lovely moments to brief play together, so I look forward to continuing to navigate this in the years to come. I'll probably need to revisit the conflict resolution episode for this. Number 3, knowing that it's okay some days, weeks, to be in survival mode. Really appreciate this episode, particularly the part about not beating yourself up, about not having a clean house all the time. There's so many other things I could list. I learned something new every episode. Thank you, Billy, for the time, effort and passion you put into every episode. It really shows, and know that you are having a real impact on people's lives. Nick, thank you for your honesty, good humour and ability to always support Billy so seamlessly in every episode. You make a great team.
So it's interesting because the survival episode, I don't know if you can remember, but that came off a guy just coming up to me and saying,
going.
like, sometimes the podcast just reminds me about all the stuff I'm not doing and I can find I need a break from it. I was like, cool, that's not good. So, yeah, and we'll do a poll that'll ask about, I've got a whole bunch of topics that I'm really excited to do next year, but we'll do a poll and ask what people want. All right, the last one. Hi, Nick and Billy. I'm a dad of 4 beautiful children, 2 boys, 8 and 1, and 2 girls, 5 and 8 months. I've been an avid listener for about 2 years now and cannot express enough gratitude to you both. You've helped shape me as a man and a father and helped me become a better husband too. My question to you, how can I tell if my child is successfully traversing a traumatic event? Is that a thing? How do you tell when someone has come out the other side, or is it a constant evaluation that is ongoing? I feel like my own life experience shows me that it's a bit of a roller coaster that smooths out over time. I grew up in a broken home, parents divorced when I was 8. Alcoholic father, depressed and struggling mother. Kicked out of the house when I was 15 in very disconnected relationships with most of my family. I was a rebellious teen who turned into an alcoholic myself, following the path laid before me. I've personally experienced how therapy, community support, and healthy relationships can steer that roller coaster of a giant dip, handling trauma poorly, into a surge out of the pit of despair. I've been married for 11 years and sober in recovery for nearly 18 months. As far as my children are concerned, our first 3 were all born on the 18th day of different months. My wife and I thought we had completed our family and were living in a beautiful life of perfection, not without the challenges of raising children, of course. When our youngest son turned 9 months, he'd gained no weight between 6 and 9 months. He was hospitalised and given a feeding tube for his nose. We went to feeding therapy, physical therapy, appointments with gastro teams and nutritional specialists for 3 months after this. With his tube feeding, he was gaining weight. He'd accidentally pulled out his tube one day, a frequent occurrence. But we had a check-up appointment the next day, so we decided to wait and see what they had to say. The doctor was in agreement that, given his progress, we should trial discontinuation of the tube feeding. At the time, we did not recognise, but now realise the following were likely symptoms of the underlying issue. He began sweating a lot, the doctor called it salt wasting, going wild about salty foods, licking pretzels and not wanting to eat much other solid food. My wife took him to the ER while I stayed home to get our other 2 children dressed and dropped off at their grandparents' house. On my way to the hospital to meet her, I got a voicemail from pastoral care that they were working on my baby boy. When I arrived, my wife was crouched down and sobbing in the hallway as the ER team did CPR on my 1-year-old. After working on him for an hour, they informed us that there wasn't much else they could do. We had to come home without our boy and inform our then 6 and 4-year-old that their baby brother had died. We tried to do this appropriately for their level of understanding and give them plenty of space to process. That night I found your episode on my girl and grief in the catalogue. I listened to every episode over the next few months and we went to individual therapy, kids therapy and couples therapy. We tried to field their sometimes outrageous questions with grace and honesty. We've been fortunate to be surrounded by a community of people who have lifted our family up, and my wife and I have tried our best to reassure, support and surround our kids with people who show them love. I think our family has and is continuing to navigate this traumatic event as well as possibly could. I've constantly asked myself, even before this, am I being a good dad? And now I wonder if I'm doing a good job at supporting them through this terrible, awful thing. My hope is that it will not be some black cloud that follows them through their life. And maybe it will even be something that allows them to have a level of empathy and understanding that helps them in developing relationships with others in the future. Our older 2 children still talk about their brother in a positive light. Sometimes they cry or we cry. We try not to shield them for our emotions while balancing, not burdening them with our sadness too much. I try to tell myself, just look at how they're getting on. That's what Billy and Nick would say. Are they connecting with others socially? How's their behaviour? Do they have protective relationships with other kids? Are there non-parental adults they can count on and trust? How do I know if they're doing okay? A year and a half after experiencing something like that, in my opinion, is the worst thing a parent or sibling could experience. Are they doing well from a mental health standpoint? How can I continue to help and support them? And the scariest of all, how is this going to affect them long term in their teenage and adult lives? Thank you for everything you do. A scared but hopeful dad. Sorry, God, I've sobbed every time I've read that. I often forget about that. My girl grief one. Like there's some that I just was so important for me when I didn't know how long the podcast was going to go for that I had to put. And so when it comes back to me as like someone who's actually had to go through that unimaginable trauma and hardship, I just fire out.
Yeah. It's easy to record an app, isn't it? But you hear a story like that, it's just...
Oh, there's people,
you know,
the best of us, that can be sitting there thinking, am I a good dad? Like,
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, mate. I took you on that emotional roller coaster with me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's... I was thinking back to that episode and how much... Yeah, I love that episode. But, yeah, it's... Oh, God. That's...
Yeah. The actual answer is in the message. It's like what we know is about like kids need to experience that grief, that loss. They need to have a full range to experience all those emotions of anger and frustration and not accepting it. And, you know, we spoke about a lot of the research around that back in that episode, but we know that kids have come through it when they can still touch that wound, but it doesn't destroy them. And, you know, for a lot of people that have experienced trauma, that's when you know you're through it, that you can kind of go, yeah, I acknowledge that it still brings these feelings up in me. And we talk about in that episode, like the final step in that grieving process is about finding ways to still celebrate that beautiful human, how tragic it was and how privileged we were to have them in our lives for that small part of it. But how do we keep their memory going? How do we keep celebrating them? How do we keep acknowledging and using it as a way for us all to come together and say this awful thing we went through together and we're still here, we're still celebrating them. And I can't really do that reflection justice, but I just want to say, like, I'm sure you feel like this too, it's just such a privilege, and having people like that in the community, and, you know, we've met some of the live shows, there's people that have gone through absolute tragedy, and I actually don't really understand how the podcast and the work that we're doing actually helps those people, but hearing that it does helps me keep going. And like, we read all these things that are like saying thank you and about how great we are, and it always feels a bit like we're just giving ourselves a massive pat on the back, but we're doing it to try and amplify like the experience that other people are having, and that's why we just read everything verbatim. You know, and there's still stuff that comes in that challenges us because we've said a certain word and criticizes us. So we know we're not doing it perfectly, but we're just trying really hard to make a healthier and stronger community for absolutely every single person that's a part of it. So I just wanted to say a massive thank you for the last 4 years of support that we've had from 6 listeners to thousands and thousands of listeners. Yeah, we have a bit of a running joke with our social group, don't we, that when we're going to call out some of their stuff, because we've got a small little community, you know, that we're a part of, like your family to me, but the PCP community is this really precious thing that we feel like we're a part of, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's going to be so cool to think about what we do next year with the pod. We're going to tour, as we said. We've got a couple of capital cities locked, and we're going to lock more. We're also looking, we hear from a lot of regional communities, can you please come here? So we're going to look at that.
I had that request yesterday.
They just, so we'll do it. And everything just runs at cost. Hopefully, people actually buy tickets. Otherwise, this is going to be an expensive little tour.
Financial commercial disaster.
So, yeah.
Why are we
What is
laughing?
it? The Tiger King, I'll never financially recover.
I will never.
I'm hoping I'll one
I
day
know what
financially
people-
recover.
You always hear things like, some people are like, oh, you're a podcaster. That must be like, you must be like making millions. Oh my God, it's popular. I go, yeah. And they're like, Joe Rogan gets 150 million bucks.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was only this year that I came out of the black or out of the red or whatever.
You don't know which way's up. It's,
whichever one. So we're just trying to keep the lights on because it seems to be helping. So everyone that contributes, whether it's the people that are paid, Patreon subscribers, the corps that come out and ask us to speak, the school communities, like we're building out the website. You'll see we're doing more stuff where the Impact Series is going to be more accessible, but everyone that provides support in any way. I remember I was in a conference, it's down where I grew up actually, and I was speaking and they're like, what can we do to help you, Billy? I was like, you're doing it. You're part of PCP. You're attending a talk. Like the people who have got the capacity and big orgs and stuff to support us, but the guy that's rolling in and buying the kid the jumper is like, he's doing more than a lot of us will, and more of us can do that kind of stuff. Just get to know these kids, tap them on their shoulder, know that they're not bad kids. They're just kids that are holding more weight than a lot of us can. And that's just, they've just got, no one's showed them how to deal with it. No one's supported their parents and schools enough. Like this is, we're trying to pull off something huge, and I will go as hard at it as I can for as long as I need to essentially try and change the world, as arrogant as that sounds. But there's not many other things I could do better with my time.
No, agreed.
So, yeah, and it's selfish. It'll be because my own kids benefit from it. That's my goal.
Totally.
My pursuit is, what is the world going to be like when I'm gone for my kids? And I think that I can influence it in a small way through this. I know you can, and all the people that are a part of Guiding Growing Minds. So thank you to everyone. There's going to be tonight, when this comes out, a live Patreon. It's the last thing that we do, a Q&A with you and me. Because this will come out.
And anybody can join that, Billy.
Anybody can join it. There's no paywall aspect to that. That's just another way that we're trying to reach and build a community.
Oh, this is going to be great. So usually it wasn't it was sort of a smaller community. Now it's open to everyone. And I've struggled when there's like, you'll see. I tell you what, it's worth joining. We'll put it in.
It's worth joining at the start as well, because it's always pretty wild at the start. I've usually just flown in from clinic.
We've got to put that in the highlight at the start of the episode, because if people don't hear that, they'll be like, yeah, it's. I'll be in the corner just rocking.
Yeah. And I'll be doing the usual dance, just doing everything while my hair's on fire.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome year, Billy. Can't wait to do another year. How many more years? I'm on 14 more years or something. I got a bit of a debt.
Yeah. Once our youngest is 18, that's the first time you get a chance of an exit.
Your youngest or my youngest?
My youngest. According to Annalise, there might be more coming.
Oh, God.
You might be. She's loving
Let's say you
Heidi so
have one
much.
in 2 years. I'll be 64. People aren't going to want to be looking. Tell you what, there'll be one sign if you know we're going all right. It won't. It'll just be a bit of airbrushing, and it'll be a bit of makeup. There will be signs. Success. There will be signs.
The makeup's coming. The makeup's coming.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Well, thanks, mate. It's been a beautiful year with you as always. So thank you to everyone for being a part of it. You're all amazing.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Speak to you soon. Bye.
Hey, don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
I don't want to see you again for the rest of my whole life. And I don't want to see anybody else either.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Just use your best judgment. We trust you.